I'm Francesca Rudkin, and joining me today we have Pietra.
No.
Oh, Pietra.
No, Pietra.
Pietra.
Yeah.
Pietra Brettkelly, with her beautiful name. And we are going to talk about A Flickering Truth, your new documentary that we're screening on Rialto Channel on the 25th of May at 8:30 p.m. First of all, why don't you tell us a little bit about the film, a little synopsis maybe?
Yeah, so this film is sort of about the rediscovering of 8,000 hours of films by these three gorgeous men in some sheds in Kabul, Afghanistan, and what it reveals of their lives, but also the life of Afghanistan over the last 100 years, because these films date back 100 years.
So my first question is, where on earth did you hear about this story? How did you find out about this story?
Yes, Jake, my cameraman Jake Bryant, and I, we were in Afghanistan in 2006. We did a series with Paul Henry for our sins, and it called Ends of the Earth, and we both really loved it there. It was so different from life here, of course, and so I knew we wanted to go back, and I got a grant in 2012 to go back and start researching an idea I had. But after a few days, I realised that idea was sort of dead. I should have been filming it in 2006. But I was interested in what happens with people like me when you don't have tools or freedom or the comfort of just being able to go out and start filming a story, right? And then somebody, one of my Afghan friends said, oh, apparently there's this fictitious place that none of us have ever been to that stores all the films of Afghanistan. But you'll never get there. Nobody knows what's in there. It's run by this really corrupt guy. So, you know, good luck with that. And, of course, for me, that's red rag to a bull, and off I went. And, you know, after a lot of hassle, managed to get access. You know, the guns came out and you're not allowed here and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, they could see that this New Zealand woman wasn't going anywhere. So I got in through the front gates eventually, and Arafi, who's the main subject of my film, he had literally just started work there. They'd brought him back to save things there. And he said to me, let's discover it together.
And it's the Afghan films. It's pretty much the national. It's like our national archive, isn't it? It's
exactly.
But how heartbreaking must that have been? Because of course you go in there and there are these warehouses with just dust and dirt and carnage everywhere, and these rolls of film.
Yeah, it's amazing. And the film, because it's been, you know, sitting and burning and dying there for decades, it's literally growing up through the earth, you know, and Jake and I were pulling it out and going, oh, look at these images, holding them up to the sun and wondering what that film would have been. But, you know, what we realised over the 2.5 years we were going back and forth to Afghanistan making it was that, you know, archive is a luxury when you just need food and a roof over the head, right, and education for the kids. So, you know, we were coming at it with a first world sensibility, of course. But, you know, for me, and to observe Arafi, Isaac and Mahmoud, the main three characters in my film, and the archive, which is, of course, a character, was the importance of knowing who we are. And for Arafi, he said, if we don't save these films, if we don't know who we were as Afghans, how the heck are we going to be able to move forward and create a country that is ours, that isn't occupied, and that's stable?
And you really felt his passion and frustration, didn't you? Because, of course, he'd been living in Germany, hadn't he? When he'd left...
Yeah, 20 years previously. He'd gone to university in Russia, which a lot of Afghans did at the time because they had this connection with Russia. And then he had ended up living in Germany and working in film. And so he came back, with this kind of more European sensibility of this must happen this way. And it took him quite a few months to calm down and sort of realise that, of course, there's an Afghan way of doing things. And, you know, initially he was sort of quite rude towards Isaac, who was this beautiful old man who'd lived in the building there protecting the films for 31 years. And he was very sort of dismissive of him initially. And then after some time he realised that, you know, Isaac embodied the archive. He was the archive, you know, his brain, his memories and everything was part of it. And how precious was that?
What was it like? Oh, actually, let's not move off Arafi yet. He left again. He's left again. Have you stayed in contact with him?
Yeah, so he came to the world premiere was at Venice Film Festival.
Oh, fantastic.
And he and his wife and sons came to that. His wife and sons have never been to Afghanistan. And his wife wept, and she said to me afterwards, she said, "You've shown me a side of my husband I never knew," which was really beautiful kind of comment. But so because Arif is employed by a German aid agency, he has to leave when all the foreigners leave. So we would often be arriving and he'd be leaving.
Okay.
So he was away for quite some months, and then he tried to base himself in Dubai so that he could at least access Afghanistan a bit more easily. And then, eventually the agency has said, okay, it's safe now, you can go back. And he's had to do a bit of back and forth, which frustrates him even more. But, he is so determined, and part of his whole drive or mission statement to save the films was also to get the films out there into the community in Afghanistan. And the film kind of concludes with this beautiful sequence of the mobile cinemas and the faces of people watching, because Afghanistan has many of the world's languages, and it also is incredibly tribal. And 5 minutes down the road, one group won't be able to speak to another group because it's so mountainous and extreme. So for him, and also there's, possibly 70% illiteracy there. So visual medium is so important. And so for him to get the films out there was just crucial for him, he felt, for people to understand who is this, who are we, what is this country, Afghanistan, and how can we rebuild ourselves?
And we get to do that as well through this film, in a sense. A lot of people who've seen this film said to me, I hadn't realised that Kabul was such a cultural and global city in the 60s and 70s. And, we have this very prescribed sort of perception of what Afghanistan is like now. But it has just this incredible history where it just changed so often depending on, who was ruling.
Absolutely.
And that footage is fascinating. It's beautiful footage.
The women in miniskirts and stuff. It's an amazing place. Even now, I love going there. But, they said it was the Paris of that region. It was very cosmopolitan, and there was a lot of travellers going through there as well. So, it did have this really international influence going on, and so that's what makes it so sad today, what has happened to it. But, some of those films, there's a wonderful scene in the film where Arif sort of catches this bunch of guys watching one of the films. And, it was this woman dressed in this orange robe by the side of the river, just splashing herself in sort of quite an erotic way. And, they were all kind of like, is this one of our films? It was hilarious when we caught them out. It was very funny.
Was that the one where they were all explaining why there were so many of them in the room?
Yeah, there was.
And what are you doing in the room? And what are you doing? Oh, well, I'm here for this reason. It was gorgeous.
It was. There was 11 of them there.
So what was it like? Maybe, obviously you went back and forth to Afghanistan. What was it like being a filmmaker and also being a woman there?
It was an extraordinary experience, really. Those are the kind of places that I actually love to be the most, and where I really feel I'm alive and I'm living and I'm doing the work that I want to do. Of course, you don't go to a place like Afghanistan and know it's not going to have its challenges, and also being a filmmaker and a woman, as you said. And there was 2 really dodgy situations we found ourselves in, gunfire and all of that. When we went out on the mobile cinemas, I was adamant, that I didn't want Jake and I to go through Taliban areas. And they said, no, and they showed me the map and everything. Well, just because 70% of the country is occupied by the Taliban, of course we did, and the vans broke down, the vans carrying the films broke down, and we were stranded on the side of this mountain, really isolated. We were sitting ducks. It was really frightening, and that went on for hours, and it got dark, and the driver turned to me and he said, put your burqa on and stay in the car. And it was more that I was a threat being there to their lives. I would be kidnapped and held to ransom. They would all be killed. And so, that was an incredibly frightening, time. And then we had to drive through the night, which is just not to be recommended because there's IEDs on the road and we could have been blown up, and all of that. So that was really frightening. But the thing that I kept on trying to remind myself is that, Jake and I had the luxury of passports and money, and we could leave, whereas a lot of our friends there can't leave and will never leave. And that was something when I finished the film that I really mourned, because I will never see those people again unless I go there. Whereas all the other films I've made, I think, well, I bump into the people, I see them, or I look them up around the world, and that's possible, but it's not possible for me to see them. And that's really, really, that's a real sadness for me. But the thing that I really wanted to impart in the film, and what you're saying about how we have been fed this idea of what Afghanistan is, this war-torn place, and they're all poor or extremist, was, for me, they are the most resilient people I've ever come across. And, you know, there has been so many civilizations and countries tried to occupy them and never has, and since the 13th century. And so they are incredibly resilient, and despite the terrible circumstances there, they always have hope, you know, and I think that was what I wanted to bring out in the film. So, you know, it is funny and it is sad at times, but it is also hopefully leaves you with the sense of hope, you know, that as human beings we can overcome stuff. And also, you know, hopefully a greater understanding of Afghan people and Afghanistan, and that in the end we're all the same, you know.
As The Guardian said, moving, powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Is the way they describe the film. It has been really well received, and as you say, it's been at some incredible festivals. That must just make it all worthwhile.
Yeah.
Or does it not matter to you?
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
It matters hugely. It doesn't matter to me, you know. I don't need a pat on the back, but it matters to me that an audience gets changed and shifted about their perceptions of Afghanistan, and can appreciate this complex, fascinating people. And that Arafi and his team, you know, I write to them and I say what happens, and I send them reviews and stuff, and that they get to hear that, you know, because it's bloody hard life there, you know, and a lot of it is really thankless, the work that they're doing and trying to save the films. And only in generations to come, I think, will it be appreciated truly. So it's really important, you know, and when I get to go to these film festivals, that's when I get, you know, true kind of reactions. Like I was at this film festival in Sweden, and you know, afterwards people often gather around, you have other conversations beyond the Q&A, and so I was outside on the street with all these people, and this man just kind of marched up and came into the middle of the group and said, I was at the wrong film, it was the wrong tickets. And I thought, oh God, he's going to ask me for his money back, what do I do here? And he said, but it was like a poem, I'm so pleased, like this. And then off he went. It was like this really hilarious, kind of slightly crazy man. But, you know, I thought, what a beautiful thing to say it's a poem. And he was pleased that, you know, the wrong thing had happened and he was sitting in the wrong theatre. But, you know, it was wonderful in the end.
So what's harder, making a film or distributing it?
No, the hard thing, not making the film, not distributing it, but finance.
Right.
That is the hardest thing in the whole filmmaking game, and it's becoming harder, and it chips away at me, and it's just relentless and exhausting. And people say, well, it's like, you know, you've got to consider yourself an artist, and I get that artists, you know, take this road and make these sacrifices, but the issues with film is that I have to employ other people, and everybody I employ gets paid. I will not have people not being paid. And so I just go into horrendous debt. And so, yeah, that is the ongoing issue of filmmaking. But when I'm out in the field and something I've visualised comes through, or somebody reveals an incredible truth, there's nothing, you know, there's no money or no security back here or no wonderful car or house or whatever. There's no stuff that can equate to that feeling and that emotion, and that is, I suppose, the element of addiction that keeps me going.
And yeah, I was going to say, so what's the solution? What is the financial solution?
Searching for that
Yeah.
really wealthy man to marry.
That old chestnut. Yeah. Jeez, that's not good.
He's hiding still.
He's hiding still.
But no, I don't know that there is a solution really. You know, I don't think there is. It's just a matter of keep chugging away at it, and look, I don't know. That is the eternal question for all of us. I went to a conference in LA about it last year,
And no one had any answers?
nobody had any answers. We're just still asking the same questions. So who knows?
Who knows? Are you allowed to tell us anything about your latest project, or is that still?
No, I can talk about it. It's because it's nearly done.
Yeah.
It's called Yellow is Forbidden, and it's the extraordinary story inside the mind of a creative. She is China's only haute couture designer. Her name's Guo Pei, and she became famous, launched internationally when Rihanna wore this enormous yellow cape of hers on the red carpet at the Met Gala 2 years ago. And I contacted her, not knowing about the cape, but just my timing, and we flew there I phoned her on a Thursday, we flew on the Sunday, we started shooting on the Monday, and within the next week, once the whole Rihanna thing got sort of, was sort of launched, they got approached by so many people around the world, but lucky Jake and I were there, and we began this journey with her and her team of 500 workers who all sit there all day long just hand sewing. It's the most amazing group of people, and she's the most beautiful person, one of the most beautiful people I've ever met.
Oh,
and it's going to be an
it.
extraordinary film. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, I can't wait to see it. And we can't wait to watch Flickering Truth, 25th of May, 8:30 p.m. on Rialto Channel. Thanks.
Thank you.